Hello everyone and welcome back to another video of the F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. Today we're doing the final episode on F1 2020, the final episode of the season, episode number 16 for the Brazilian Grand Prix. We will be back of course on next year's game, but obviously we move into more modded series coming up with, well, you'll see shortly. Maybe not next week because I'm just about to go into testing. But anyway, we're signing some activities. Don't really know what really is going to benefit us because all of this is going to get wiped anyway because it doesn't transfer. So yeah, without a doubt, R&D, which of course will be replicated to the new game. We've got our aero upgrade and our Sashi upgrade has both come in. So the weight redistribution one is the one that I want to do. I think we needed to get one of these on our driver career mode as well. But there's only there's a major one and an ultimate one available if I remember rightly. In terms of though for this one, we sort of got a pretty good engine. Aero is probably something where we need to work on going into next year's game. That will probably be where the first priority really is. But enough about that. It's time to move to the finale, the final race of the season at Brazil. But first of course we have to qualify for the race, and we also have to check in on the R&D side. The start qualifying is going to be wet, but that will only be the start of Q1. We've also got an email for Carl reminding us about our high cash balance, and then of course we'll also get, if we were to spend that money, we'd also get an email from Carl asking us to save some money because we can't afford our team to renew our teammates' contracts. Again, take that from what you want. In terms of the R&D, we're doing very well now. A lot better than we were a couple of episodes ago back at Italy. We've actually stormed ahead and managed to catch Alpha Tauri as well. So very close for them, as well as we looked onwards. Potentially for Season 2, we'll have to wait and see what the R&D is like in F1 2021. As you can see there, a few spots of rain. We're looking at contracts and stuff on that tablet by the looks of it, but you'll have to wait until next year's video to find out what contracts are signed. But anyway, into qualifying, and for the first, I think the intermediate lap that we did wasn't actually that bad. Because usually if it starts to rain you think, oh no, it's raining and that means I'm going to be at the back, it's terrible. To be fair, in the intermediates around Brazil, it's not that bad, considering it's the qualifying pace. We're only P11 in this car. We'll have to see what we can do as the times of course are going to start to tumble. You can see that our lap time is going to decrease massively. We've got our teammate ahead as well, who's providing a little bit of a tow, or not too much of a tow really for us as well, so that's going to be an advantage as well. Although to be fair, we only really need to get into the top 16 to be able to qualify. Max Verstappen has now gone faster than Hamilton, but I expect the Mercedes to turn it up going into Q3, which we won't see of course, because I'm pretty sure we probably might not make it into Q3. I think although yes, we have got a good engine, and this is an engine track. I think that the way our Sashi and Aero are, the deficit isn't enough that we're making up on the straights during the middle sector really. But we're almost 10 seconds up, 9.5 seconds up. We set the fastest per third sector as well in the process, and it's enough to go through in P13 as well. So comfortably clear of the drop. Russell, to be fair, very close to us as well, which is what we want. We wanted to see this earlier in the season when we were getting to Q2 before we forgot to change our engine. Into Q2 though, it's not that great. I'm not sure what's happened to Russell. He's bottom, but we are improving on our lap with 3/10 up as well. We made a lot of time up our previous lap, which, to be fair, was both on a new set of, both of these laps on a new set of SOS as opposed to our previous arrangement. We go on to use the set from Q1 and Q2 for our first run. But it's P11, Lando Norris P12, so that his AI tends to struggle in qualifying, which is unfortunate, unlike real life. Russell down in 16th. It's promising. We've got a free choice of tyres. What can we do? It's time for the race. For the last of the season, it's time for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
Welcome along then to the place where heroes and history are made. It's where the 2008 title was decided in the final corner. And it's the place, a year later, that Jenson Button stormed through from 14th on the grid to claim his one and only Drivers' Championship. It's Interlagos, and it's time for the Brazilian Grand Prix. We're racing today then at Interlagos, a historic 2.7 mile circuit and one of the few anti-clockwise tracks on the calendar. 15 corners in total, 9 to the left and 6 to the right, with a technical middle section opening up to a flat-out sector 3. That gives us our best passing opportunity down into turn 1. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Now I want to ask you about Lewis Hamilton. They've had a fantastic campaign, it's been a wonderful year, and they come into this weekend's Grand Prix as a fully deserving champion.
It really is well deserved. I wouldn't say it's been a faultless title challenge, but certainly one that has been consistent and well managed. Here's hoping they let off a bit of steam today and give us an exciting race.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, and Gasly, Sainz. The owner driver, Albon. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Lando Norris, Perez, Verstappen, Lance Stroll, and Raikkonen, Vettel, Grosjean, Daniel Kvyat, and George Russell, Magnussen, De Vries, Giovinazzi, and Nicholas Latifi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Okay, let's finish the season with a strong effort.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm sure we'll try and make it a season 1 finale with to enjoy. Obviously, there's not really we're not really that under pressure in either the drivers or constructors championship, so it's just to go out there and have some fun in the race. Race strategy is going to be a one-stop for mediums to softs. I think this can be a strategy that we can make it work. Obviously, if the tyre gets too much on the mediums, we can always switch to the hards, so that's the advantage of starting on mediums. As Friday lights come on for the final race of the season, and away we go, and it's a mediocre start actually compared to Sainz. We are going to be on his insides though, going into turn 1, and that's going to give us the chance to move up into P9 as Gasly and Ocon go side by side. As we look up ahead of us, there's now starting a bit of a train recording, but as Bottas is now losing out Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. So Bottas having a terrible start on those medium tyres, remember, as Sainz tries to have a go around the outside. He's got us, so we're going to try and have to get him back here as soon as possible, down the inside into the next corner and back up into P7. So we jump to lap 10. The opening 10 laps haven't really done much. We've been kept in DRS range of Ocon and Gasly, as Sainz is all over the back of us. Norris hasn't really been closing in. He's sort of fallen out of Sainz's DRS range, but the important thing for us is staying in Ocon and Gasly's DRS range, which gives us not only the chances. Sainz is round. We went a little bit too wide into that corner. I'm just waiting to see what happened here with Sainz. So I go a little bit wide. There's plenty of room on the inside of him. He doesn't need to turn into it. Well, not really turn into us, but he could have adjusted himself to the left-hand side there, and he didn't. And as a result, he's round, and that's his race gone. So yes, it was bad news for us as well, because virtual safety car Delta has jumped to lap 16. Kimi Raikkonen is out of the race. That might be the last time we see him in this series. George Russell is also out, depending on what happens in the 2021 retirements, etc. George Russell as well is out though, which is disappointing for us. Shows we might need to do a little bit of work on the reliability, but for me the reliability has been good as we jump to lap 20. We've been leading the Grand Prix now. Both Mercedes decide not. We're the only really one doing this stop. Leclerc is on a 2 stop as well. He's the only one that's really doing that strategy. So yes, I know the Racing Points are doing the reverse of this strategy, going from soft to mediums. So we'll see how they feature, although they're not really done that too much, even though they've got the 3rd fastest car. They haven't done too much. There's Kvyat as well is sort of leading a pack there. Kvyat started on the hards. We're going to come out behind this, and that's going to put us out behind Max Verstappen, who somehow managed to jump ourselves and Norris, and I think he was even behind Stroll, as you see both Racing Points there on the medium tyres, as Kvyat has lost out to both Verstappen and Perez now, as well as his teammates. All but Perez, are on the medium, on the hard tyres. As we're coming up to with DRS, is going to be an easy overtake next to the torpedo himself. Danny Kvyat up into P9, easy overtake, move back to the racing line. Thank you very much, and we'll get DRS again, of course, down the next straight. So we have to wait until the end of lap 23 though, going on to lap 24 though, before we're sort of in a position to make the overtake. We were sort of not close enough going into the final corner on the end of lap 22, but now we're into lap 23, in the lap 23 on to lap 24, and now we're looking to overtake of Verstappen, who's sort of not being able to get past Perez on the hards. He ducks out as we go for the big lunge on both Perez and Verstappen. Perez locks up, and there's a bit of tyre wangling. Luckily not to get any damage there, as Perez sort of tried to close the door, but it was far too late for the Mexican driver, and we've moved into P6. And Perez actually lost out there. If you saw me coming, then instead of trying to close the door, then he probably wouldn't have lost out to Verstappen. But still, we move on, and we're now catching up to, you can see the red dot there in the background, that's Leclerc, so he's coming to the pit. So it's 2 Mercedes and 2 Renaults at the front. As we go round the outside into turn 1, can we make this work into the Senna S's? Yes, we can, and move up ahead of Gasly into P5. But we jump now to lap 33. Max Verstappen is sort of departure. His tyres are starting to a little bit better than ours at this moment. Ocon has managed his gap beautifully in the remaining laps of this race to keep it to 2 seconds really, so we can't really catch Ocon. So that is a shame that we couldn't catch Ocon really, but we'll take P5, and it's promising the fact that we're going to end this season on a high with a P6 and a P5, but it's not over yet. With Verstappen now having down the inside, there's a bit of tyre banging, and Verstappen has purposely, as he opened the steering, he just didn't give us any space around the outside to keep it on the circuit. We have to go off circuit to avoid making any contact. Yeah, he could have tightened his lineup, and then he just moved himself, as soon as we went off circuit, he just moved himself off back onto the racing line, which not very courteous of him, but nevertheless, the FIA deemed it legal, so we'll move on, and we retain P5. Up to the line this is going to be for our best result of the season so far. What a way to end off season 1 of this My Team career at Brazil.
That's it, what a season. Great work this year, really great work. It's been hard at times, but we've come through.
Well, thanks, Jeff, for all the annoyances and all stuff for this season. I mean, we'll be back later with him. So yes, P5, good job from us. Verstappen started down in 12th, which is why we didn't see him earlier in the sort of stint 1. The fastest lap time though is promising, although we had set that on lower fuel compared to everybody else, with the hard tyres not really being able to provide the fastest lap material. So the 2-stop, which is why a couple of people like Leclerc tried the 2-stop. Fortunate for our teammate that George couldn't really retire, but it's enough to keep us in P10 nevertheless. Stroll, as I said, wasn't really in a position to challenge us, and neither was the likes of Ocon or Norris. So Russell will get 1 point, so I did say that if he gets a point, then we would consider him for next season. So there will, of course, be votes, of course, when we get round to next season, with the relevant votes for sponsors, drivers, etc., etc. We retain P7 though in the championship, so that's going to be enough to give us a big haul of prize money at the end of the season. So that is very good for us indeed.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy?
Dive bomb. Simple as that.
You're surpassing all expectations. Can anything or anyone stop you?
Well, the tyre wear was good today, actually. So, yes, the team
It
provided a
wasn't the
good
cleanest
car.
race today, was it?
Well, Paris didn't want to back down, so I didn't lose any positions. He did.
Great. Well, that's everything.
So yes, that's really that's pretty much the end of the season then, and the end of this series for season 1. Obviously, we'll be back on next year's game, whatever that may be. We've got one of the fates. We'll just ignore that one. So yes, what a season! It's been a little bit of a long one. Obviously, with the mods, I really didn't know if the season would actually be ready, but we've made it ready, and we're hoping to obviously increase the stuff with the mods going into next season. Hopefully, this is where we leave the powertrain. That will of course try and mimic this as close as possible in next year's game with where we are on each of the departments. We've got a big load of resource points as well, so that's where we'll probably be looking to improve as well, probably on the aero side as well as the Sashi side. But P5, the best result this season as well. Mercedes made it 16 wins in 16, so they beat McLaren's record from 1988 with that 100%, because McLaren only got 15 in 16, I think, if I remember rightly. So that is pretty much the word of Mercedes dominance. Verstappen sort of moved himself into P3, although he didn't get actually any better position than third place compared to the likes of Albon, who did manage to get a second place, and both Ferraris got the second place before their engines got nerfed at the Italian Grand Prix as well. But yes, if you have enjoyed this series, then leave a like, subscribe to the channel for new, see more F1 2020 gameplay as and when it comes out. Until the next video, I'll see you next time. Take care, thanks so much for watching, enjoy your day, and goodbye.